Hello, my friend, and welcome to Security and Skill, hosted by me, Johnny Seifert. This is a celebrity mental health podcast. I say it's okay to not be okay. And if you have the same match as me, whether you're watching or listening, give a 5-star rating, click that subscribe button, leave a review, and share it with a friend. And let's keep spreading the word as we go into 2025 that it's okay to not be okay. Now, this week it's the return of the book club, which I love doing. And the author I've chosen to kick off the year is my January favourite. She always takes me through the last week of December, first week of January. Her brand new book is out now. It's always my first book of the year because it sets me up. It sets that bar. It's Amanda Prowse of her brand new book, This One Life, which I absolutely love. So joining me on Skin and Skirt, it's Amanda Prowse. Hello, Mandy.
Hello, darling. How are you?
Well, I'm all the better for seeing you. I just want a Mandy cuddle. You give the best
Oh,
cuddles. I just want a little cuddle
I
from you.
do actually. It's
You
on my
do.
CV, actually. Great cuddler.
I'm glad you have a CV. I tried to make a CV over Christmas. It didn't go very well. I forgot half the things I've done. I went, oh, hold on. I sent that email off. I forgot I did that, that, and that. Didn't go well. Your book, This One Life, right? There's a quote in it that.
Can I just stop you there?
Go on.
Has it been in a war zone? Can
Oh,
you just look
sorry. Do I need to do the
at the date of
apology?
that?
Do you not
No, I
listen to
love
my
it.
podcast? This is what I have
I
to do to
do.
every author. I have to apologize because your book is curled up. It's got marks. It's been in the jacuzzi. It's been in the sauna. It's been in the back. It's
See,
been everywhere. It's been
I
read though.
quite love it though. I
That's all you need
quite
to
love
know
it.
is that it's been read. And it's, but
Yes.
then the problem is your page, because what you do beautifully is you always write me a little note in it. And which I always get excited for. The first time when I get the book, I go, has she written the note this time? I've got the note. And it says, to my lovely mate, see you very soon, Mandy. I hope you're going to stick to that.
Oh, definitely.
Can't wait. Your book, right? There's a quote in your book that I texted without giving too much away of my life because certain people, mother, are not happy with how much I'm putting out on social media. However, there's a quote in your book that I texted her in defense of an argument we were having last week, and I literally quoted Amanda Prowse 2025 in it. That's what your
Well,
books
I
do to
always take
me.
one side. I
Well, I
take your
know.
side. So
The quote was, you don't, you make me cry again. You
oh,
don't have to understand me, you just have to love me.
yeah, that's it. I love that actually.
That's 5 words that came from your book, Amanda, your book, and I used it in real life.
It's one of my rules of parenting is because you just kind of assume that because you've given birth to these beautiful creatures, these humans. I have two boys who are now fastly approaching 30.
And also
Um,
getting into the next stage of marriage, not just your little boys anymore.
yeah, it's all happening. It's very scary for all of us because any change kind of is a bit, anxiety inducing. But one thing I figured out quite early on is that I don't have to always understand them because they're from a different generation. And so when I want to say, oh, you're on your phone too much, or oh, is it a good idea to walk near traffic with earbuds in? All the things that cause me anxiety or make me worry. I remember my grandparents saying, oh, you mustn't go on the tube after 10 at night. And if you've got a vest on, I'm thinking, God, just let me be. And I remember that frustration because I knew my life and I knew how I worked. And I have to remind myself that it's exactly the same for them with this whole set of new worries. I don't have to understand their lives. I just have to love them unconditionally and everything's okay.
Well, let's start with that, page 178 of your book, because what we're going to do is go through different quotes from your book that I found and then reflect it on you. So, good luck. I hope you remember
I
what you've
know.
written.
It's like a test.
So, page 178, what did you write? You said, no, mum, it does matter that I do my homework. We can go shopping another time. I need to get this done. No, mum, that's not true. People do care about grades. At least I care about grades. No, mum, it's very kind of you to have a word, but I don't want to enroll at catering college. I want to work in central London. No, mum, I'm not going to stay here and let you help me save up. I want to move into a shared flat, spread my wings. No, mum, I'm not going to go out with Billy from the block opposite. I never want to end up like Billy's mum, stuck here on the estate, counting the pennies. I want a different life, a fancy pants life. I don't toast the end up. So, as we're talking about misunderstanding and you're talking about your kids, let's go a generation above. What do you think your parents misunderstood about you?
I think they could never understand my lack of being satisfied. So both my parents have worked really, really hard all their life, but they were sort of a generation that if you had a nice enough job, a good enough roof over your head, a happy enough relationship, then contentment was where it was all at. And I think they could never understand that I was always striving for the next thing, looking for the next thing, planning the next move, the next whatever it was. I think they found my lack of contentment and still do very hard to understand. And actually, it's not that I'm not content, it's that I need to keep pushing myself to remain focused. And I know that's hard to understand, but it's almost like, those fishes, if is it a shark, if a shark keeps still, is it true it has to keep moving? I maybe read that somewhere or saw it, but I have to keep moving, I have to keep doing and planning and plotting. And it might be small things, but sometimes it's bigger things. And I think they worry even now. I mean, I'm nearly 60. I think they still worry. They want me to just take a break, to rest, to sit and be, but I will never be that person. And I think that's a really hard thing when you're motivated differently. I think it's hard to get your head around that.
But also, it's hard as an author when you're writing your books. Like, for example, you're promoting this book right now, but you're already thinking about not just the next book that you're writing, but also probably the book after that. Yet you're having to reflect on this one. It's like you're spinning three plates at once, and yet for anyone else, they're just going month by month by month. But you can't do that because you've got deadlines you've got to meet, you've got drafts that need to be handed in, you've got publication dates, you've got rewrites, you've got a promo schedule. That all can't just be, yeah, I'm plodding along month to month to month. So there has to be a misunderstanding there as well.
Yeah, and I think it's there's that phrase, isn't there? If you want something doing, ask a busy person, which I know you get totally. And I've always had that kind of impulse to do more than I'm, I want to say capable of. I don't mean that, more than I can manage. I thrive under a certain sort of pressure. And actually, I am quite a calm person and I'm quite sort of centered and I'm not frantic or fraught or panicking, but I just need busyness in my mind. I need busyness in my life. And it's when I have time to stagnate or if I don't have a project or something's, stalling, that's when I find that I will start to doubt my ability, doubt my sort of capability, and start to question everything. Like I have to keep running on that hamster wheel.
100%. Well, that hamster wheel is always really important as well because it's like you never want to take your foot off the gas. You always complain that you're burnt out. As soon as you're just simmering, no, I need to be burnt. You can never be satisfied of it. You always need it. Before we carry on, actually, what we haven't done yet is actually talk about what your book is about. So do you want to tell us what the book is?
So the book is a dual timeline book. It's Madeline's story from it's one day in her life when she's in her very early 20s and she wakes up feeling quite unwell. And it goes from 5 o'clock in the morning when she wakes up until she goes to bed that night when her world is turned on its axis. She gets some devastating or wonderful news, depending on what way you want to look at it. But it's something that changes her life and puts her at a crossroads at a time when she never expected to be there. And the other timeline is the present day, where we catch up with Madeline, who's living this amazing life. She basically has everything that she spoke about in her teens that she wanted. She's escaped living in this sort of grotty block where she lived with her parents, where she grew up on the Isle of Dogs. She's living up west, which was one of her dreams. She has a great job. She has a brilliant social life. You can feel the beginnings of her falling in love, really falling for this guy that she's met. And it just feels like she's at the start of this incredible new chapter in her life, when her past and the decisions she had to make on that day come back to revisit her tenfold. And she questions whether she did make the right choice and whether she is actually happy.
Perfect summary. I'm glad that you did that, not me. Page 227 says, I'm just trying to explain to you, love, how no one gets the life they think they will or the life they think they deserve. Every single one of us has to compromise and sidestep the cracks and jump over the lava and cling on the best we can because that is just life. And you are no different. None of us get it all, Madeline. There is a price to pay for every choice, always. What you can't do is make a choice and then moan about the price because that's just bleep. Um, let's talk about compromises, Mandy. What have you had to compromise in your life? And I hope we can take this out if you're not happy with it, but your husband had to compromise a lot to go around the world and what he did. Is that okay to say? Can we say that out loud?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Simeon, my husband, is a soldier, and his life is one of compromise and service, and it always has been. I'd say, I mean, he's done 13 or 14 tours now. And he's, nearly 60 and still working as a soldier. It's a lot. Um, but he loves what he does, but it is all about making a choice and then living with those consequences. And my life's different. It's not quite as exciting as Simeon's. I don't get as much travel. I haven't been maybe as tested as personally as he has. But I think it's all about, basic decisions. For me, the biggest compromise was becoming a mother. And it's something I feel so lucky. I mean, it's the best thing I've ever done. It's my best role in my life. And I just that's what I want to be remembered for. You know, when I eventually turn up my toes, I just want to be remembered as mum of two fantastic men that I brought onto this earth and have nurtured them and loved them and grown them. That's the best thing. Everything else is just fluff, to be honest. But that's my big achievement. But becoming a mother does come with a huge set of compromises, as anyone who is a parent or a guardian or a carer will tell you who's listening. Um, you do have to sort of put yourself second or third or fourth even. And I've never been able to understand. And actually, I slightly envy. I have met parents who have said, well, yeah, that's what I want to do. And if they don't like it, this is how it is. I've thought, oh my gosh, every decision I've ever made, from where we live, how we live, what we eat, the furniture we have, everything you can think of is always based around what's right for my kids. And if it's right for them, then I'm happy. That's good enough for me. It's never been about my wants or what I want. I'm always driven by thinking about making their future secure, making their life the best it can be, helping smooth their path in any way. And I don't mean financially, I mean giving them skills and tools to really be the people that they can grow into and have a successful life, just to be brilliant, members of the human race. But that's a huge amount of compromise. You sort of pale into insignificance. I did when I became a mother. It was all about just providing for them in every way.
And for those that don't know you personally, which hopefully everyone needs to, is one of your character traits is just being a carer. You love caring for people. You love giving. You don't really take much. You love to give more than take.
I do, but I think it's kind of, I do actually love caring for people. I get a huge amount of satisfaction from caring for people, whether it's my parents, my kids, my friends, my community, fellow writers, whatever it is. But that does come at a cost because I'm not used to asking for what I want. And I'm not used to saying if I need something. And so if it comes to something like being ill or a decision's being made that you don't quite agree with, I've often found it quite hard to find my voice because I'm not used to being that person who has the confidence, I suppose, or I want to say strength of character actually, to be able to go, no, this is what I need and want, always putting myself second. And I'm happy to do it, but there have been times where I think, well, actually, no, this isn't good for me, or it's not giving me what I need or want.
Well, I think that's it. And there's a really interesting quote that you said on page 288 of your book. Everybody judges everyone about everything. You're not unique. It's how people figure out how they feel about something. As I said, it's not too much about the fact that you have a daughter, but more how we could talk about childhood biscuits, even touch on parenthood, and you didn't trust me enough to open up. So we talked about compromise, and with compromising, there's also judgment because you don't ever want to do something wrong, but also everyone has an input into the way you're living your life. How do you think from the other side? So now thinking from externally to the internal rather than internal to external, how do you think people have judged you in the past? And what's those judgments done to you in the way that you look at the compromises that you've had to make?
That's a huge question.
Sorry.
Uh, no, it's great. I mean, I've spent a lot of my life overweight. I finally managed to sort of take my weight, health, and fitness in hand probably about 4 years ago. As you know, when I started seriously losing weight and trying to get healthy, I spent 10 years of my life obese, morbidly obese. And I think that was probably the biggest area of judgment I've ever had, where people assumed I was lazy, greedy, stupid, all the labels that go with that. It was really, really hard because I was none of those things. Um, and I found that really difficult because I was already battling with the way I looked and overeating and food addiction and everything that went with it. Um, and so to have those labels attached to you as well made it doubly hard and actually drove me into the arms of food, just keep feeding the addiction. I'd read something, I could write a book and people could send me brilliant reviews and messages, and someone would say, oh, fat cow, or something like that. And that's the one thing I would remember. And it would send me spiraling down into this feeling of, a lack of self-worth, which was horrible. And I think that's probably the thing I've been judged most on was the way I looked when I was incredibly overweight. And it still damages me now. As I say, I'm nearly 60. My weight's within a healthy range and I'm still getting fit. It's not about how I look, never been that. I'm not that person. It's much more about, being able to live a life that's long and healthy. But I think, yeah, that's probably the thing that I was judged on most and the thing I still find the most difficult to deal with.
But you are beautiful inside and out. And I think that a lot of the time you are not defined about the way you look, because you're still being booked on TV and radio interviews, etc. But you're judged on your books. And because you create this family narrative and you always put one person, whether it's Theo or Poppy or Prue or Nick or Madeline, all these brilliant characters you've got, they almost define you to an extent because you can kind of hide behind them because you go, look, it's just an Amanda Prowse book that you can trust to start the year. You're going to feel good. You're going to have a couple of cries in it, and then that's okay.
I think that's true. I think I do certainly hide behind my characters. I think I also have probably saved myself a fortune in therapy, Johnny, because I've just explored everything that ever has worried me or I've been concerned about. I do it on the pages.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I definitely do that. And I think I'm able to sort of sort a lot of issues out in my head through writing stories that reflect the things I find hard to talk about. Yeah, definitely.
Well, let's think about what you find hard to talk about and use page 316 as our springboard for it. Marnie says, the thing is, none of us get to plan the life we live. We might think we do, but we don't. Not really. Bits of it, yes, the path we choose, maybe the job we do, or the place we live. But the truth is, life carries us along in raging rapids. It sends us challenges, it drags us under, it puts obstacles and people in our path. Things we never expected to come along, and they steer us in good directions because we might not have chosen. But so much of it is good because this is our life, and we only have one of them. So, Mandy, thinking about what you've just literally said, let's reflect on that 12-year-old Mandy and what you'd be telling yourself, looking ahead to what the life that you have been given.
I was very lonely when I was 12. I didn't have a great circle of friends. I was never the sporty kid, the beautiful kid, the clever kid, the arty kid. I was just bang average at everything. And I was quite lonely. And I remember thinking I didn't know how I was ever going to get out the blocks. How did you get to be one of those people who had connections or knew someone or had some insight into how I could have the life I wanted? Um, and so I think I found it quite I would find it quite encouraging to go back and say to that 12-year-old self, you don't end up as a lonely older person, even though you're lonely now. You will have great periods of loneliness. I think we all do. But it won't always be that way. It will be okay. You will find someone to love you. You will find your place in the world. You will be fulfilled through your career. You will, all the things that felt so incredibly out of reach. But I think what Marnie says is true. We are just carried along in those rapids. And even I think at times in my life when I feel I've got everything sorted, oh, great, I'm releasing my 38th book. I'm living in a beautiful house. I've got an amazing husband. My kids are healthy, touch wood, everything's good. And then you'll be struck by grief or you'll be struck by illness or something that you didn't see and you couldn't have foresaw. It's like it pulls the rug from under you. Um, and I think they're the rapids I'm talking about. It's how you ride them and how you come out the other side that shapes you. And it makes you more resilient. The first experience of those things, it's really hard. Second, not so much. By the third, you've learned a coping strategy. So actually, everything is just sort of shaping us for going forward. And I'm sort of grateful for all those experiences.
So, as you talk about those experiences and that kind of 12 to 60, let's think about 62, I suppose 100, but I never want to put on now, not, tempting death or whatever, because I need way more books from you and 40 books more is not enough. Final quote, page 326. I do want to speak to Nico, but I'm scared. I want to spend more time with Edith, but I'm scared. Truth is, I've been scared since the day I woke up with a stomach ache and found out I was pregnant. And I mess up, Jimmy. I mess up all the time. So, what are you scared about now as you head to 60 and thinking about the latter part of your life?
I'm scared of not finishing things I've started. I'm scared of not being there for when my kids need me most. And it's funny, when they were little and I was working a lot, I would do 2 or 3 jobs and I was often not at home and my mum was looking after them or whatever. I remember thinking that was when they needed me the most and I felt really guilty about not being there. But I've realized that actually they've needed me all through their lives and I'm scared of not being there as they get older. Um, if they become parents, God willing or whatever, I'm scared about missing all of that, about some ideas and projects for books and works and dramas that are in progress. I'm scared of not finishing them. Um, I'd like to outlive my parents, very much so, having seen what can happen to them when, my brother died, and what it does to a parent is quite horrific. I would hate to not outlive them so they don't have to go through it again. Things like that. Also, I just think the world is in a state of flux at the moment. It can feel a bit like a bin fire. Everywhere you look, there is anger and there's disappointment, and people are finding life tricky and hard. We're politically unstable. We're The climate is unstable. Everything feels like it's a bit like we're living in a cakewalk. And I think I'd like to live long enough to see stability. I would love things to turn a corner and to calm down and for the fires to be put out and for everyone to live a bit more peacefully. I would love to see that.
I love that. I love that. Tell me about your next book. Who can we get excited for next year?
Well, my next book is actually out in August, and it's a book
Yes. So that's like
called,
that gives me. I'm away mid-July, so I've got a
oh,
book
should
to
have a
walk up and
copy
down the
by
pool
then.
with. Okay, good.
Should
Just
have an
checking.
early copy of you by then.
I'm gonna
I
be.
love
I've
it.
already booked two lots of that same hotel, same infinity pool to walk up and down for next year. So I will be there with your book in hand. And so,
I
what am
love
I
the
going to be
fact
reading?
we're now planning on my publishing schedule around your holiday dates.
Yeah,
I
but you
really, really
love it
love
because you love those pictures, so it actually works out for everyone quite nicely.
I do. My next book is called Ever After, and it's a story of a widow in her 50s with a grown-up son who's about to get married, who finds love again. And it's whether she can allow herself to love again, what her family feel about her, falling in love. Does it demean the relationship that's just ended, not through any choice? And all the complications that come with it. It's also quite funny. There's a few twists and turns in it in that her son gets himself into a few scrapes that she has to sort out. I don't want to give away too much, but it's absolutely lovely. It's about finding love and hope later in life when maybe you think you won't.
How many times am I going to cry on it?
7.4, 7.4, 7.5.
That's quite good. That's quite good for you. That's quite good for you, Mandy. Amanda Prowse, your book, This One Life, is out to go and buy. Now, please do go and buy it and support her because I genuinely loved it. You can see I loved it because it's been folded and battered around because I loved it so much. Otherwise, if it looked really nice and fresh, I haven't read it. The next book, it's like that. It's clean. It shows I've read it. So do go and buy Amanda Prowse's book, This One Life, out to go and buy now. And if you love Mandy Prowse like I do, there's episodes in Secure and Secure. You've probably done 4 or 5 now of the past couple of books. So do go and check them out and find out about all her other books because she is amazing. And if you love the Secure and Secure Book Club, there's interviews of all your favourite authors, Jane Fallon, Adele Parks, loads of them. Go and check them out in the library. And if you love Secure and Secure, support me at Johnny Seifert 92 on TikTok, at Johnny Seifert on Instagram, at Secure and Secure Podcast where you can find me. Let's keep spreading the word. It's okay to not be okay as we go into 2025. Let's make sure it's the best year yet. I'm Johnny Seifert. Thanks so much for watching or listening. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.